So for today's video, I'm going to be talking all about my TTC journey, which if you don't know what that means, that stands for trying to conceive. In other words, trying to have a baby. If you watched my previous video, which was my pregnancy announcement video, I talked a little bit about it there, how we were trying to conceive for a few months. But in this video, I'm going to go into all the details about, maybe not all the details, but all the details about TTC, what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and what helped to get us pregnant, but then also the miscarriage that we dealt with. So if you'd like to hear all about that, then just keep on watching. So if you're watching this video, I'm assuming it's because you're somewhere along on your TTC journey, whether it's you just got off of birth control and you're starting to maybe think about having a baby, or you've been trying for months, or you've been trying for years, or if what brought you to this video is because you've also had a miscarriage. The whole trying to conceive TTC world is a world that I had no idea about. It's its own little community here on like YouTube and social media. So I'm gonna start all the way from the beginning, which feels like such a long time ago now, so if I don't remember certain things, I'm sorry. But the first step that we pretty much took was me getting off of my birth control pill. So I was on birth control for years. Don't ask me which birth control I was on. It was a pill. It wasn't the little circular one. It was the one that came in the little square, and it was like the white pills, and the bottom row was like all the brown pills. I was taking that for years, and we had talked about like wanting to have a baby soon or eventually. And obviously the first thing I needed to do was stop taking my birth control pill. So I went to my OBGYN and I told her that me and my boyfriend were thinking about having a baby soon. What I thought was that if you get off of birth control, it takes your body months for the birth control to get out of your system and to like possibly get pregnant. My OBGYN told me no, that is not the case. Once you're off birth control, you're off it, and it's pretty much a free-for-all. Like, you can get pregnant the next month. Another thing that I started doing way before we even were trying to conceive was starting to take prenatal vitamins. So I was taking the 1-a-day gummies just because it was easier to pop the gummies in, but I just felt like the gummies weren't as effective, so I switched over to the 1-a-day actual soft gel vitamins. They say to start taking prenatals even before you're pregnant or when you're trying to get pregnant because it thickens, again, not a doctor, I might be saying this wrong, but it thickens your uterine lining, so it makes your uterine thicker, because obviously that's where the baby is going to grow and develop. Next thing I did, which I was doing this for a long time even before I got off of birth control, was tracking my period. I've watched a lot of these videos on YouTube and girls are like, oh, I have a 28-day cycle. No, not everybody has a perfect 28-day cycle where you get your period on day 14, and you really can't go by that. So I got an app to track my period. The app that I use, there's a ton of apps out there, but the one that I use is called the Flow app. So my app looks a little different now that I'm pregnant because I'm in like the pregnancy stage of the app. But before you're pregnant, it's good because it asks you like, are you tracking your period? Are you trying to conceive? Or are you pregnant? And at that time, I was just tracking my period. So you would enter obviously what day your period starts. You can enter in all your symptoms, like, you know, heavy flow, light flow, you know, I have a headache today, I feel bloated. Then you enter in what day your period ends. So you want to do this pretty much every month for as long as you can, because the longer you do it, the more that the app will track it and the more accurate that it'll be. I had been tracking my period forever, not even like when I was trying to get pregnant, just let's say if I was going on vacation, like I wanted to see when my period would come so that way I wouldn't go on vacation at that time. I had been tracking for a long time, so my app was pretty accurate because I had so many months of period tracking. So then I entered the mode of the app where it's trying to conceive. So it'll show basically your fertile window. So I'm not a doctor, I'm gonna explain it as best as I can, but your fertile window is basically the time frame within the month that you are able to get pregnant. I was logging in all my information on there, and it would kind of give me an idea of when my fertile window was, when my fertile days were. So we would kind of go by the app. Then we realized that the app wasn't as accurate as we thought it was, at least in terms of like the fertile window and your highest, most peak fertile day. So we moved on to using ovulation test strips. So the first kind of ovulation test strips that we tried out were the clearblue digital ovulation test strips, and I would highly not recommend these if you're just starting out on your TTC journey, for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're super expensive. So this is a box of 10. I think they sell them in like a box of 20. But this box, I can't even remember. I feel like this was so long ago already. But it's expensive. And if you're buying it every month, let's say if you're not lucky enough to get pregnant on the first try, you're buying them every month, it can get pricey. I would suggest using these if you're already pretty familiar with your cycle, if you know when you're ovulating, if you know when your peak days are, and when you know your most fertile days. But if you're just starting out and you're just getting the hang of the whole TTC thing, wouldn't suggest using these first. Also, the clearblue tests only come with like 10 strips in it. There are some packs that come with 20. But if you are testing every day, sometimes you're testing twice a day, like it'll run out like that. So the next thing that we moved on to was the easy at home ovulation test strips, which you can get these on Amazon for half the price, and it comes with double the amount of test strips. I feel like this is what really helped us to get pregnant. And so let me just show you. So the inside, this is the box of 100. So it comes with 100 ovulation test strips, which sounds like a lot. You're sometimes testing 2 or 3 times a day. If you're testing like 2 or 3 times a day for 5 days, like it can go quickly. And if you're trying for months, like you can go through this box really quickly. So this one comes with 100 of the ovulation test strips. So the blue ones are the ovulation test strips, and then on the side here, which I don't have anymore because I use all of them like a nut, but it comes with 20 of the pregnancy test strips. When it was my fertile window, according to my Flow app, I would start taking these test strips. So it says on the box that you can start taking the test strips the day after your period. I started doing that, and that's literally how I like flew through like a box of 50 of these. I don't really think you need to test the day after your period ends. For me, that didn't work because my cycle wasn't like a typical 28-day cycle. My cycle was like 31 days, 32 days. So to test right after my period finished, it was kind of a waste. So I would start testing on like cycle day 13, cycle day 14, around that time. And I would basically take like a little shot glass. So we had like little cheap, like little plastic shot glasses. I would pee in the shot glass. I'm just gonna open one. You insert the test strip up into the line, and then you're gonna see the dye like rise. So it's like a pink dye, and once your urine hits the line, it's gonna start to rise, and then that's how you know when the test is done. If you have a very light, like faint line, that means your LH level is low and you're not at your peak fertility. If the line is like super dark, that means you're at like your peak fertility and it's time to have sex. So the next thing I started doing, which may sound kind of crazy to some people, but again, if you're like in the middle of this TTC world, like you feel like you want to do anything to help you get pregnant. So next thing I started doing was charting my ovulation tests. So this way with charting, like you can visually see it in front of you. You can see the progression of the line. Like in the beginning, you'll see like, oh, it's super faint. Like I wasn't really fertile then, and you see it getting darker and darker and darker and darker. So on the chart, I would write what cycle day it is. So cycle day 14, 15, 16, I would write the date just so I could remember. and then I would write the time that I was taking the test strip. So once we started getting the whole like ovulation test strip, charting down pat, and I still wasn't getting pregnant, we then moved on to another app. So with the easy at home test strips, there's an app that goes along with it pretty much that's called the Pre-Mom app. That was, again, what really helped us to understand ovulation, know when I was ovulating, know when I was at my peak ovulation. That is what I really think got me pregnant. So between the test strips, the Pre-Mom app, and the charting, that's what really like worked for us. The Pre-Mom app, pretty much you can eliminate the step of the charting because the app does everything for you. Instead of putting it in your notebook and charting and writing down all the information, the app does everything for you. So you're gonna take a picture of the test strip and it'll read everything from there. So it'll note down what cycle day you're on, the time that you took the test, where your LH level is at, and you can, like I said, take like 2 a day depending on what cycle day it is, and it'll keep a history of all your pictures and all your info on the app. The most helpful thing about the Pre-Mom app is it tells you exactly the number of your LH level, which I will use the cycle that I got pregnant as like a reference. So like for example, cycle day 16, my LH level was at 1.22 at 10 in the morning. So that's pretty high. So the highest that I saw my LH level at was like 1.79. That was like the peak LH level. If the LH level is like 0.20 something or 0.30 something, it's low and you're not at your peak fertility. So really seeing the number of where your LH level is at, that's what kind of helped us. So on cycle day 17, that's when my LH level was the highest. It was 1.79. So that was my peak for the month. I took the test at 11 a.m., was at my peak. And then I took it again at 7:30 p.m. and had went down a little bit to 1.76. So once you see in the app that your LH level is at its peak, usually peak is, if I remember, anywhere from 0.8 something to like 1 point something. But again, that can be different for everyone. For me, it was just when I was at 0.80 something, that was my high. When I was at 1 point whatever, that was my peak. It would stay at the peak for about maybe like 12 hours, if that, and then it would start to go down. The Pre-Mom app was super helpful once both of us were able to like understand the app, understand how it works. That's what was really like helpful to getting us pregnant. So I had read on a lot of websites that your fertile window is about 5 days long, and you can baby dance, aka have sex, up to 5 days before your peak ovulation day. So at first we were baby dancing 5 days up to when my peak fertility was, and we did that for a couple months and we saw that it wasn't successful. So then we thought maybe we shouldn't do it 5 days leading up to my peak fertility. Maybe we should just wait until it's closer to my peak fertility and then baby dance then. So that's what we did, and that's when I got pregnant. We waited, we held off until we saw high fertility and peak fertility, baby dance on those few days, and I came out pregnant. So obviously I just explained all of this within a matter of minutes, but this took us a couple of months. I would say like 4 months of trying. Now getting into the story of my miscarriage. So after one of the cycles being successful, so I would count down the days, and when it was 5 days before my period on this cycle, I started testing with these little pink test strips, and I had the faintest little line. And that's how I like flew through using all those test strips, because I would test in the morning and at night. They say the best time to take a pregnancy test is in the morning when you first wake up, your first morning urine. So I was taking these in the morning as soon as I woke up, and then I would take it again maybe like 12 hours later. So one of the first test strips I took, I saw like a faint little line, but it was there. So I was like, oh my God, I think I'm pregnant, oh my God. So I was like, you know what, let me relax, let me wait until the evening, I'll take another one. Still a little faint line. So I was like, okay, I need a little more confirmation. So I moved on to taking a digital test, because you can't get that wrong. It either says pregnant or not pregnant. So I took a digital test and it said pregnant. I called my OBGYN. I told her I had a faint line on my pregnancy test. She knew I had been trying, so she said I could come in and take blood work to confirm it. So I went in, I got blood work done, but of course, every day after that, I still continued to take these little pink test strips morning and night, morning and night. And the line was still very faint. So they say when you're pregnant and you take one of these test strips, you'll start off with a faint line, but as your pregnancy progresses, day by day, the line should get darker and darker and more noticeable. So after the second or third day, it did get a little bit darker, and that's when me and Will were like, okay, like we're pregnant, we're having a baby. Finally, like after months of trying, like it's happening. And then I kept taking the test every day, morning and night. And then one day, like at nighttime, it was strong, not very strong, but it was stronger than when I had first started. So that night it was pretty strong, and then the next morning when I tried, it looked like it had gotten lighter, like more, the line had gotten more faint. So I was like, that's weird, like why would the line get lighter? Like everything that I'm reading, it says as your pregnancy progresses, the line is supposed to get darker and darker and darker. So I freaked out. I then started taking like 3 tests a day, and still the line was like very faint. So the line is getting fainter, not sure as to why. I was really confused. This is the first time I've ever in my life had a positive pregnancy test. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how this worked. Even after all the research I'd done, I was like, what is going on? So I had the faint line, and then I started bleeding. So I was so confused. I was like, are you supposed to bleed when you're pregnant? Do I have my period? Like, were the tests wrong? Like, I was really confused. And at this point, I still hadn't got the results from the OBGYN, the blood work. So she finally calls me with the blood results, and I actually have the footage from this. So I'm gonna insert the footage from when the doctor called me and when I spoke to her.
The test was positive, but the number was very low.
Okay.
So, but however, I still want to repeat the blood test.
Okay, yeah.
Because just because you bled, let's make sure that it was a period, or maybe you're still pregnant but having some bleeding issues.
Oh, okay.
It was very low. So
Right.
you were pregnant, but did you have your period, or are you still pregnant?
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking. I assumed if I got my period, then I was no longer pregnant.
Right, but we need to follow this up.
Okay.
We need to make sure, because what if you are still pregnant but you're having some complications?
Okay, got you.
So I would like for you to come back and repeat the blood test.
Okay, so yeah, I'll come in today before 5. Well.
Okay, and then hopefully I'll have the results by Monday.
Okay, and it's just same thing, just for blood tests, right?
Just for blood test.
Okay, and what did you say? You said the hormone levels were very low?
Yeah,
or?
it was 8. So, like, it's such a low number, but it's still positive.
Uh-huh.
So it's either done really early, that it was a super early pregnancy, or it was not a good pregnancy.
Okay.
So I want to see where the direction of this level of, it's called the beta subunit, a beta HCG, to see where it's going.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, either you're still pregnant and having bleeding in pregnancy, that we would need to follow up, or you had like your period or like very early miscarriage. You definitely were pregnant.
Okay. I literally went in that same day, like a week later after the first blood work that I had done. I went back in, I had blood work again. And then a couple days later, she confirmed that I was pregnant. and then after the second round of blood work that I was no longer pregnant. And what I had was called a chemical pregnancy or a chemical miscarriage. She said that it's very, very common. It happens to a lot of women. Basically what happens is you are pregnant, so you release the egg when you were ovulating. The sperm and the egg, I don't know the actual like scientific terms, but the sperm and the egg connected, I don't know. So there was an embryo, I don't know. I was pregnant at one point, and what happens with a chemical miscarriage, I might not be saying this correctly, is basically it's just like an abnormality, like something that went wrong with like the chromosomes, and it didn't continue, the pregnancy didn't continue to progress. It's really, really common. It happens to a lot of women. It still sucks though. Like it still sucks, it still hurts. We had that moment of excitement of, oh my God, we're finally having a baby. Oh my God, we've been trying and we're finally pregnant. And we didn't have much of that. It was probably about a week where we were like taking it in, and then to finally like hear that you had a miscarriage. So it did suck. It did, and it happened at like a really hard time. This was right around Christmas time. I literally found out that I had the chemical miscarriage probably like days before Christmas. And it really sucked. It really like hurt because with COVID and everything, like I wasn't even gonna see my family. We weren't gonna see either of our families for Christmas. Then we got this bad news of a miscarriage after trying for months. Like it just was a bad time. And one of the first things that I asked the doctor when she told me that I had a chemical miscarriage is, what did I do? What did I do wrong? Did I eat something? Did I do something wrong? Like what did I do? Like how did I cause this? And she said, there's nothing that you did wrong. There's nothing that you could have done differently to like save the pregnancy. It's just an abnormality. But then one of the first things I asked the doctor was, okay, well, can I continue to try? Like, can we still try to get pregnant? And she said, yeah, like there's, you're perfectly fine. Like there's nothing wrong with you. You should be getting, well, I had my period already at that time. I was bleeding like a normal period. She said, you should be ovulating again like normal after your period ends. And she said, if anything, you probably will be even more fertile after having a miscarriage. So I went home and Mia Will talked about it, and we were like, should we like wait? Should we like, give my body some time to relax? Should we just, put this on pause for a minute? Or should we just continue to try? I told him what the doctor said about being more fertile after having a miscarriage, and we both agreed. We were like, let's continue to try. We did the same thing the next month, and now we have little Luna on the way. We got pregnant again right away, right after the miscarriage, which that's why we didn't really have that element of surprise, because we kind of just had that like a month ago, probably not even, like 3 weeks ago with the first pregnancy. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, it's like, oh shit, I'm pregnant again. Is the same thing gonna happen again? Am I gonna have another chemical pregnancy, another chemical miscarriage? Is this really it? Like, are we really having a baby now? Like, it was just, we didn't want to get our hopes up this time. The difference with this one was the line just kept getting darker and darker and darker and darker. Once the line started getting darker, I started investing and buying the digital pregnancy test. So I bought both. I bought the clearblue digital pregnancy test, and I bought all of them. I bought these test strips. I bought the clearblue digital pregnancy test. I bought the first response digital pregnancy test. And every day it was coming up pregnant, pregnant, pregnant. Yes, yes, yes. The lines were getting darker and darker and darker. So that is our TTC journey, our trying to conceive journey. But everything ended up being worth it in the end. All the tears, all the months of trying, all the ovulation tests and the charting. Everything was worth it, because now we have our baby girl Luna on the way. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys enjoy these types of pregnancy videos, please comment down below. Let me know what pregnancy video you would like to see next, and I will see you guys in the next video.